Hello and welcome to Up the Villa podcast. So if you're new, please subscribe. It will help us grow massively and definitely reach our goals. So Aston Villa aren't in action this week, but we are still here. We will give you some entertainment for around 25 minutes or so. One thing I mainly want to touch on, and it's quite a massive point, really. It's what I'm seeing across the fan base as a whole. I'm seeing it in Facebook groups. I'm seeing it on Twitter. I'm seeing meltdowns left, right and centre after virtually every game. But, it's a question that I'm seeing Villa fans actually writing on social media. And it's the question of, is Dean Smith the right man for Aston Villa and to lead us forward? And for me, I don't know whether some fans have been stuck in a time machine since Martin O'Neill left that day and woke up in 2021 and realised that we're mid-table in the Premier League. But for around 10 years, we've been absolutely garbage. We've had Remy Gard, Tim Sherwood, Paul Lambert, Steve Bruce, Roberto Di Matteo, Alex McLeish. We've had a long list of managers that have tried to take Villa to another level and managed our great club and failed miserably. I don't need to give some of you, a little brief history on Dean Smith, but when he took over, we were basically a mid-table championship team, probably going to end up in that division for many, many years. And, we got promoted. First season of Askin under, he had half a season. Second season, stayed up in the Premier League. This season, mid-table in the Premier League. For me, that's progress, massive progress. And if you look at the summer, the job he's probably going to do in the summer, we're going to build and go up another level. I'm just a little bit baffled to see why that question would get branded around and just the thought process, really, because I don't know who would come in and do a better job. I mean, you look at a team like Watford when they were in the Premier League, they seem to have a new manager every 5 minutes, and they were doing half decent for some seasons, and they just get rid of their manager. So for me, I just thought I'd just vent a bit of my frustration of why some fans are, and if you're one of them, maybe put in the comments down below why you feel like he's not the right guy, because I think it's totally justified that, you can be a bit annoyed at how we're playing at the minute. Don't get me wrong. I don't think we're playing that great at the minute, but to get rid of Smith would be absolutely shocking. Ryan, what are your thoughts on this?
It's crazy that we've got to this point, really. There is a sense of missed opportunity this season. We've said it on this podcast that we didn't want the season to peter out, did we? And we wanted something to show for it. First half of the season, we were going great, weren't we? Absolutely brilliant. We were dismantling Liverpool 7-2, Arsenal 3-0. We won our first opening 4 games that we haven't done since 1930. So we had a terrific start, but, lately it has petered out and it's a bit disappointing. But hey-ho, the bigger picture is much brighter. And don't get me wrong, Smith, there are some negatives this season. He can't be immune from criticism, can he? I feel some tactical in-play decisions were wrong. I feel he's slow to react sometimes with the subs. I don't think the subs are inventive enough sometimes. The wingers, it seems like it just take one winger off, put another one on. But come on, man, the guy is absolutely quality. Do I think he'll learn from mistakes he's made this season? Of course I do. Has there been an improvement from last season? Yes, there has. Recruitment, has that been a success? Flipping right it has, hasn't it? We're about to achieve one of our highest Premier League finishes in the last 10 years, like you said. The last 3 years, we haven't known until the final whistle blown what division we're going to be playing in. So, and do I think the players still believe in him? Yes, I do. Will he address the lack of creativity when Jack's not there? He'll address that in the summer and he'll go and buy. And can we trust him with the transfer kitty? Of course we can. I've seen people commenting going, I can't trust Dean Smith with 100-odd million again. Are you joking? Look what he's brought. Look at he's built a squad and we're only halfway through that rebuild and he's done terrific with the recruitment, him and Lang. So I firmly stand by Dean Smith. That's where I'm at.
Mate, I'm totally with you. And I'd rather him make some mistakes with us sitting mid-Premier League, do you know what I mean? As opposed to being near the bottom and making mistakes which would cost us our position in this league. You've said before, Ryan, that he's slightly learning on the job as well, which he is, because he's never managed in the Premier League before. He's never managed a club of this stature before in his managerial career. He's never had probably the amount of money he's got to spend. So he's always continually learning. But we're getting there, and I just think it's a bit random. You're shaking your head, Seb. What do you disagree with?
I'm just baffled that we're sat here in this position having to discuss whether we believe in our manager or not, when he's got us out of a relegation zone, a couple of months before the season ended. I was sat here talking to you at this point of the season last year going, who should we sign in the Championship to get us in the best position to bring us back up? It just doesn't sit right with me. I think he has made mistakes, but the best thing about it is he's allowed to experiment. He's got himself into the position where he can afford himself some games to experiment and it not backfire. He could try something and it could work and it could click straight away and hey ho, but he could try something which he has done and it hasn't quite worked. I think Ryan alluded to it. His subs sometimes are questioned to good degree, but the problem is, again, we probably haven't got the subs to bring on that allows him to come on and change the game. I remember him saying a few years ago, he looks behind him at his bench and he sees nothing but quality. I don't doubt that they're good footballers, but with 20, 15 minutes to play and we're bringing on a winger for a winger, it doesn't allow us to go and express ourselves to maybe go and win the game if we need to, or if we needed to hold out. I think that will come with time. It's obvious to a neutral, the progression that we've made in the last few years. And I think majority of our fan base can see it as well, but there's always going to be people that want more, whichever club you're at. I mean, look at Southampton. They were top of the league at the start of the year and people saying they could get, Champions League. Look at Man City. People were calling for Guardiola's head a few games into the season. They were sat in 12th. They looked uninspiring. Every team goes through patches in a season where they struggle. And unfortunately for us, this is our patch of the season where we are struggling.
I feel like where we are slightly at with the sub situation is, I know the one against Liverpool, it probably was crying out for Keenan Davis. But if you look at what we've had to do last summer, we was try and bring in a little bit more quality. I just sometimes feel we don't probably have the right bench, do we? You look at Liverpool, bringing on Mane. They're established Premier League club, and we're coming up against a lot of established Premier League clubs like Everton, Tottenham, Arsenal. We're not at that level yet, but we're going to get there eventually. And you'll notice that we probably do get rid of a few players in the summer and bring in a load more quality, and that's how you're going to get there. Justin, I know you love Smith, so let's hear it.
The short answer is yes, he's the man for the job, isn't it? There's no question for me. Absolutely, categorically. Dean Smith is our manager and will remain our manager definitely into next season. Long term, we all know football's a very fickle business, and we are entering, as we said in the last pod, the critical rebuilding stage of trying to push us into, the top echelons of English football, which is a very, very difficult thing to do. The one thing we have got, which is probably the most important thing, the two most important people at our club are the owners, and they haven't come to Villa and they haven't invested what they've invested to sit back and watch us peter out into mid-table every season. So what's happened this season will be, very important. I'm sure they've sat back and took a lot of note of what's happened and see where we fell short. For me, we haven't fell short because of Dean Smith. We've fell short because of the quality of our players. So how you can possibly question the manager when the players he's got aren't ultimately good enough to push us into that top six because they fell short. then it's very difficult for me to even contemplate getting rid of Dean Smith. I just think it's a nonsense, really. Had he got Man City's squad and we'd be sitting 10th, 11th where we are now, then you get rid of the manager, don't you? Because he's not getting the best out of them players. When you've got a squad that's literally building second season back into the Premier League, like you've just said, teams even like the likes of West Ham are having a phenomenal season. They've spent millions upon millions over seasons upon seasons to get where they've got it. While it looks like an overnight success where they are, if you actually look at their squad, they've littered full of very, very good footballers that have taken multiple transfer windows to get to where they've got to. Now, we've almost fast-tracked ourselves, really, into this position. And, yeah, we have fallen away. And, yeah, it's bitterly disappointing after where we were. But ultimately, we've got all the time in the world to carry on building. We've got another transfer window, then another one next January. So we've got to just keep taking it season by season, haven't we? As long as we keep progressing, then for me, Dean Smith keeps his job. There's no question about it. If and when the day comes where he doesn't progress the team and we are going backwards and there is problems in the camp, then we'll deal with that when it happens, and it will happen because that's just football, isn't it? Dean Smith won't be our manager in 10 years. Jack Grealish won't be our player in 10 years. But the owners will be there in 10 years, all being well. And that's what will make us ultimately the club we want to be, So we've got strong foundations. We've got a great setup. We've talked about it over and over again on this podcast. The foundations that they have set up in only 2 years is unbelievable. So from that to build now, we're only going one way. We've said it multiple times, but to even question Dean Smith currently, I think they need to give the Reds a wobble.
The financial report that they put out, I only read that today. Obviously, I've seen everyone tweeting about the stadium and that. But what a recap that is for building foundations. And you guys know I love building foundations. They touched on the high performance centre that they built at Bodymoor Heath, the academy that they plan to build at Brookvale. The women's team got promotion. There was on about how Villa Park was utilised during the pandemic with the NHS. And the season ticket sales was another one I forgot about. We capped at 30,000 season ticket holders. I've never, ever known a waiting list for season tickets. And then we're going to improve the stadium on top of that. So just that little recap of the last year is amazing. So this, like you say, it is long term. A lot of people want success yesterday, don't they? But this is long term.
Let's not forget as well, we've had no income through ticket sales for a whole season now. They have had £100 million spent last summer. We're looking at another £100 million spent this summer. And the most important statistic of all that financial stuff is we are debt-free. Mm-hmm. Debt-free. We don't own a penny to anybody.
And that's another thing I've seen a lot of people saying. He spent 200 million odd. He's had 200 million transfers. Mate, we come up with about 3 players, and I think it works out like 10 million a player, which is
12.
Which is pennies, isn't it?
Mm. It's just absolutely. I don't know how anyone can be negative at this moment in time. I just, we are a very positive podcast. I'm a very positive Villa fan, like everybody on this screen right now. But to see negativity around. It just doesn't sit right with me. So
that's the problem. We're gonna end up looking back on this season as a negative when we've been dog shit for 10 years, and this season is a fucking positive. Do you know what I mean? But there's just a dampener going on, and we shouldn't look back on this season as a negative. We've gone miles, absolute miles.
I don't think it will.
I don't mind frustration. I think frustration is fine. I think we're all frustrated, massively frustrated, but. Don't be negative. Stop being negative.
If you look at the bigger picture, like Ryan alluded to, we've spent per player, we've got about 12-13 million pound per player. If you take a look at the bigger picture, we're probably overperforming where we should be. I mean, go back to our predictions at the start of the league. I had us in 15th or 16th. The rest of us were going, as long as we can be safe with 10 games to go, with 5 games to go, that's progress, and we'll be happy with that. If you look at our predictions, I bet so far we sat quite a way above where any of us predicted us to be.
There's a question coming in a minute that touches on your point, Sev. So I'll give you that one as well. So, massive fan of the podcast, Gary Plaza. He put this to me without me even asking him a question. Basically, morning guys. Interesting question to hopefully get the views on soon. Just over 2 years ago, we lost 3-0 to Wigan. We just lost in the last minute against the champions of England, whilst Wigan looks set to be relegated again to League Two. I feel this is massive progress, and I'm really happy to see where we are. However, I see so many fans slating losses against the likes of Liverpool and Spurs, etc. I agree we have a right to be upset when we lose to teams like Burnley, Sheffield United and Newcastle, but not others. Where do you stand? I think this is just touching on what we're on about, because again, it shows where we've come from. And I think any fan can be disheartened by a loss. Like, we're all upset, we're all angry, we all don't like losing, we all want our team to win every match. But I just think sometimes there's just a little bit too much frustration at times. So we'll go on to some of the questions now then. So James Evans has put, I've seen lots of Villa fans turn their noses up at a return to Tammy. If it means moving Watkins out wide, surely we need a squad capable of playing in different ways rather than just a very good first 11. Ollie can't play every week. Seb?
Yeah, I'd love Tammy back, speaking from experience. I don't think that's just because he used to play for us and he did well for us in the Championship. If you look at his stats, he's Chelsea's top goal scorer this season at the moment, and he also finished as Chelsea's top goal scorer last season. If we can get him for the right price, I think that would be a brilliant deal.
I think the price is the main thing with Tammy, isn't it? I think we don't want to be paying like an astronomical amount of money where we've got certain areas that we do need to address. Now we're looking at, like, unfortunately, I really like Trezeguet. Trezeguet has done his ACL. He's going to be out for a long time now. So already we were saying we needed wingers. We need backup now, don't we? So we're talking about wingers, central midfield, striker. They're the four areas for me where I feel like I would like to see us spend big in the transfer window. So we'll go to a question from Noel. He's put, will Dean move some of the young players to the fringes of the first team or loan them out like Jack was years ago? It looks like we're stagnant at the moment, table-wise. Ryan?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people saying play the kids. We've got to remember, they are young kids. These are like 16, 17, 18-year-olds playing under 23 football. And whilst they're doing really well, it's tough to promote them to the first team now. Saying that, though, I would like to see Kessler. I think he's looked really good out of the bunch. But now I think they've got a plan with the youth, haven't they, to bring them through our system. And then once they maybe reach a certain age and they can't quite break in the first team, then they will go out on loan like Jack did.
Definitely. I'll give this one to you, Justin, from the Brooks. With Trez and Jack out, is it now time to change formation or give youth a chance? So it's a similar question, but you can add something.
I agree with Ryan. I've watched a lot of the under-23s while I've been in off work. It's fantastic that the £2 that you spend goes to the foundation as well, and you can actually see these kids playing. And for me, a lot of them aren't ready. A lot of them, I mean, there's some phenomenal talented kids in there, but like Ryan said, they're kids. They're 17-year-old kids. They're and the results haven't been fantastic. What I've watched, they tend to concede a lot of goals, but they do look good going forward. But they're learning the trade, so I think to chuck them in now, especially in a team that's struggling, it's counterproductive because they're only going to come in and they're going to. We found it a little bit with Ramsey when he started a couple of games. He's gone missing a bit because the team's not playing that well around him. I think it's great if you're playing really, really well and you can chuck the odd one or two into a successful side, because I think they just fly then, don't they? But for me, I wouldn't play the kids. I don't think he'll change formation. I think we've said it numerous times. He loves that formation. The only thing I still beat the drum about is I think it's time to give Keenan Davis a run. And with another winger out now with Trez, our wingers, it's limited now. We're down to 2, aren't we? If Jack's not in for the next 2 games, you've only got El Ghazi and Traore now. So for me, I would still, I'll keep saying this until he does it, I would give Watkins a run out on the left or the right, and I would give Keenan Davis the chance to show us what he's got in the last few games in the 9.
Deano, if you're watching, we're sticking up for you here. And Justin wants you to play 4-4-2, so come on.
Not even 4-4-2. I think Watkins out on the left in the 4-3-3. I think he's more than capable. I think he played that role for Brentford before he switched to up front. I think he can. I'm not saying that's his best position. I'm not saying that's where it'd end up for Villa. But if we do sign another striker in the summer, then, Watkins can play in that position and it's an option. We need fluid players that can slip in and out.
Definitely. This one's for you, Seb. It's off James. So, how big a difference will it make that this summer we are going in knowing what league we are in early, unlike the last three?
Massively. Ryan said it himself. The last 3 years we haven't known until the final whistle's blown. So it gives us extra time to prepare. Maybe it gives us some extra time to send some scouts over to really intensely watch some of our targets. It always puts you in a better position as long as the league you're going into is a good league and a league that you're staying in. As long as we don't know we're going into the Championship with 10 games to go, then it's a positive. So we can settle down, we can look at what we need, and we can maybe experiment with some of the games to go.
Cool. Off Matt King, we should support Ross Barkley and give him back some belief, not moan about him on social media. Do you agree? I'll take this one a little bit and I'll pass it to one of you guys. I mean, my thing with Barkley is when he initially came, he was absolutely fantastic to start with. He was really good. We were all absolutely buzzing about, how well he was doing. And at times we was asking the question, would you sign him? And a lot of fans were saying 100% definitely. But for whatever reason, his injury, he's came back, he's been chasing his form. It's just not happening, is it, for him? It's just not working. I was meant to say this on the review the other night. There was one moment where he picked the ball up and he was sort of like one-on-one with the defender. Now, earlier on in the season, he knocks it to one side and he bangs at him. 100%, but he's just got no confidence, has he? And for whatever reason, it's just not working. And the little slow-mos of him just jogging, it doesn't look pretty, does it? But,
no.
I'd never come on here or ever slate any player on social media. So for me, I just think the loan in the end, it's just not worked out for him, has it? Does anyone else want to add anything on Ross Barkley?
I think it's a shame how it's ended with him, really. It's definitely looking like, he's not going to sign for us in the summer based on what he's done for us this season. I'm absolutely with you, Luke. The slagging off and the abuse of players online is disgusting. Whatever you think of them, whatever you think they have or haven't done, you just don't do it, do you? I'm probably a bit naive, even at my age. I still find it very hard to think that any footballer comes on a pitch to deliberately not try and not give his all. I believe that players can come on the pitch and it's just not happening for them, and it hasn't happened for him for a long time. Is that because he doesn't care? I doubt it. You'd like to think that he's got that every time he steps on the pitch, whether it's off the bench or for the start, he's got a point to prove, whether he stays with us or goes back to Chelsea or wants to restart his career somewhere else. It doesn't benefit him at all to not try it for Villa. It just doesn't. I don't think, because he's going to be surplus to requirements at Chelsea, you would imagine, in the summer. So, he's going to want to get a move somewhere else. So if he doesn't even attempt to look like he's trying for Villa, who's going to want to touch him in the summer, And it's a shame. It's a real shame. It hasn't worked out. When we went for him in the summer, when the name was mentioned and then it signed, I was buzzing. That was the type of player, I think we should be going for, proven player in the Premier League, England international. It hasn't worked. I wish him all the best when he goes back to Chelsea, but it's a shame, but it hasn't worked out.
It's confidence, isn't it?
100%. 100% confidence
is massive in football, especially. And he came here and he was absolutely buzzing. He was absolutely flying, wasn't he? That was the Ross Barkley we wanted to be watching week in, week out. But he's lost his confidence, and on a football pitch, I can imagine it's a very lonely place if it's just not going for you. Everything that you try just doesn't work, and you can tell it. For me, when I'm watching him, it feels like he's got like a bag of sand on his shoulders. He's just carrying weight on his shoulders. That's how it looks for me. So, this is what we'll do with this question is we'll send it round. And what I want you to do is each pick one player you would love us to sign in the summer then. So this is from Ben Arkell. If the budget is the same as the last couple of years, do we buy two £50 million players or four £25 million players? So this is like our football manager chat. For me, I think we're going to be spending around 425, should we say, because there's certain areas that we need addressing rather than just two wholesome positions. We did me and Seb, I think it was me and you, Seb, we did a January episode and I did a thumbnail with Jesse Lingard on. And we got a few comments that were saying, no. Twitter was no.
One of them. Yeah.
So that was a great shout for me. So this is my shout for the summer window. Dele Alli for me. We go and buy Dele Alli. Ryan?
I was exactly the same player, mate. I was taking inspiration from your Lingard call. And I don't, just the pull of coming to play with Jack Grealish, you was on about Barkley then. Them two were on fire together, and you could see how enjoyable they made each other's game, Jack and Ross, and they just didn't get that going since the turn of the year, and I think that's affected his confidence as well. But I really think Dele Alli could come into the side and link up with Jack and Ali, and I think he could add something to our front three, four.
I think it would be really spicy idea with him in our squad. I just think I think he's brilliant. Like, he's lost his way at Spurs, so Jack can draw the player to us as well, can't he? We've seen in the past with, Barkley, Tammy. So why not? That would be the one for me. Probably a bit pricey, but I think I'd go for it. Seb?
I'm going to go for a bit of a left field call here. And I'm going to go for someone that plays in the Eredivisie,
Lewis Dunk.
Dutch league. No. He plays in the Dutch league. He's a centre mid who can also play centre back. I think I put him in the WhatsApp group earlier this week. Teen Coop Miners. He's captain of AZ. He has European football experience. He's played in the Champions League. He's played in the Europa League. He's versatile. He can play anywhere across midfield. He can even slot in at centre back. We need a backup left-footed centre-back, so he could play there, but he could also play in midfield. But he's also a goal scorer as well. I think he's got like 12 goals this season, and for centre defensive midfielder to have such a good goal and assist output, I'm surprised more teams across Europe aren't calling out for him.
I think it's a great show. Two that as well, I reckon I'd go for as well. If Fulham, sorry Seb, get relegated, I think I'd go for Robinson, the fullback from Fulham. Yeah, I think he's decent as well. I've liked the look of him this season. Lookman as well. I think he's had a real good season as well. Justin.
The bane of my life this season at Villa has been set pieces. I think it'd be very, very difficult to get this player, but if I could get one player this summer, I'd go and sign James Ward-Prowse from Southampton, especially after his England performance the other month. I've always thought he was a tidy footballer, but I think I probably underrated how good he was as a central midfielder. He's a captain of a club in the Premier League. Unfortunately, it's his boyhood club as well, so it's a bit like Jack is, which I've been told at Twitter. His attachment to that club is huge. It would take a huge amount of money to prize him away from Southampton, but they've fallen away horrendously again. And if we want to push where we want to go, for me, that's the type of player I think we should be going for. Our midfield three struggled a lot this season. I think he would sit in that midfield three really well. He'd complement what we've got, and his set pieces are absolutely phenomenal. I don't think there's a better player as a set piece in the Premier League. For me, he's Conor Hourihane, but on steroids. He's a much better player than Hourihane. It's a shame Hourihane's gone, but that was what he brought to us set pieces. But Ward-Prowse would be my number one if I could get it.
Conor Hourihane on steroids. That's one for the TikTok.
I think that's a great shout. To be fair, Justin.
What about St. Maximin? I've seen quite a lot of people putting him in their Villa team for next season.
Yeah, I think I'd go for him as well, but
pricey.
I reckon he'd cost a lot of money, wouldn't he?
Well, that's where we are, ain't we? This is the problem now. We'll be,
but we've got loads of money.
we're shopping at the top end now, aren't we? So it's a worry.
It is going to be an expensive summer, though, isn't it? Because these positions now are the most expensive, man. They're the stellar signings.
We might even have to just accept that we'll just get a couple of players in each transfer window for the next maybe 4 or 5 transfer windows, just so we can get that quality in. So it could even be a slower build than we all want, but ultimately, if we get to where we want to go, if we sign 2 £50 million players for the next 3 transfer windows, that's 6 players of very, very good quality, isn't it? So by the time we start next season, I know I'm thinking far ahead, then what does the team look like then?
To be fair, we could raid Wolves as well, because it looks like they're going bust as well. So we could have Neto. Neto all day long. Little cheeky Neves as well.
Neves can clean Jack Grealish's boots. We'll get him.
Decent for the bench, Neves.
Cool. So, nice little episode for you all this week. We'll be back for the preview of the Man City game. I hope you enjoyed it. Just showed a bit of support for Smith. Not that he needs it, but I just thought we'd just definitely have our little say on that one. Just let us know what you think. Subscribe. Up the Villa.
Up the Villa. Keep the 5. Come on.